We're taken from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, verse 13. The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, verse 13. This message came about as I was meditating and thinking about what should be the appropriate message to give, and this one came up. And when you look at this word or the title, Fear God and Keep His Commandments, you would think that one came directly from God, right? It is still from God, but it did not come directly from Him. It came directly from someone that we will know better during the course of this message. This man was born into wealth. He was born into power. He was born into everything. Right? And then he followed the ways of God as he was growing up. And God decided to make him a king. And as he was about to start ruling his people, God asked him to ask for certain things that he might need. By now, some of you already have an idea where this story is going. And he asked for wisdom. He did not ask for money. He did not ask for a lot of houses. He did not ask, maybe there are no cars, maybe there were horses and everything. He did not ask for any of those things. He asked for wisdom. And not long after that, he was tested by two prostitutes. One slept over her child and then claimed the child of the other woman. Oh, this is my child. And both of them started to fight. And it got to the king. And the king said, oh, you know what? You fighting over this baby? Get me my sword. I'm going to cut this baby into two, and you take one half, the other woman will take one half. And the woman who slept over her son was jubilating. Yes, that is good. But the other woman said, King, please, don't kill this child. Give her the child. When the time comes, this child will look for her mother. And the king said, woman, you are the mother of this child. And he gave that woman the child. Why are we going through all this? That this guy was so powerful in the work of God. As many of us probably are doing now. That's why we have to be careful as we walk our walk of Christianity. We can never be so confident or become overconfident of what is going on. We must always know that as children of God, there's always temptation. There will always be obstacles. There will be things in your way to test you. And King Solomon was no exception. Not too long after that, he started marrying women. Right? He married 700 women. That was not enough for him. He started having concubines. He got 300 concubines. Why he stopped at 1,000, I don't know. But when you put them together, that's where he stopped. 1,000. 1,000 women. And each of these 700 wives, they all came from different places. And they came with their own idols. And King Solomon now will make a shrine for each of these juju. And God was not happy with that. Of course, you know, God is not going to be happy. So let us quickly just read 1 Kings chapter 11. 1 Kings chapter 11. And then we'll just read the verses 1 to 6. 1 Kings 11, 1 to 6. Let me read so that we can quickly listen to King Solomon. Right, verse 1. King Solomon, however, loved many foreign women. He loved foreign women. Never loved his own. I know for some of you that looks good, but God warned him before and warned out the Israelites. Don't marry from these people. Don't marry from these tribes. That was where King Solomon went. He loved foreign women. Besides Pharaoh's daughter, he loved Moabites. He loved the Ammonites. He loved the Edomites. He loved the Sidonians. He loved the Hittites. They were from nations about which the Lord had told the Israelites, you must not intermarry with them, because they will surely turn your heart after their own gods. Nevertheless, Solomon held fast to them in love. Verse 3. He had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines, and his wives led him astray. His wives led him astray. This is a powerful man of God. Or he was a powerful man of God. But don't just think because of the way you are now, you are always going to remain that way. No. Temptations will come. And his temptations came with all these foreign women. And he was led astray. Verse 4. As Solomon grew old, his wife turned his heart after other gods. And his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God as the heart of David his father. You wrote that line, fully devoted. Christianity is not just about devoted. You have to be fully devoted. Solomon was not. And the Bible is using his father now as a reference. And many of us know about the father. As bad as we thought the father was at a point in time, Solomon was even worse. You all know the father, right? Committed adultery, right? And he did not stop there. Murdered the man, the wife's husband. That was bad. And God reacted to it. And then he was punished. And then he came back to God. Verse 5. He followed Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, the Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. Verse 6. So Solomon did evil in the eyes of the Lord. He did not follow the Lord completely. Again, you must note what is said here. He did not follow the gods completely. It's not just following God. We must follow him completely. As David, his father, had done. As time goes on, the Spirit of the Lord started working in him. Started working in him. And then he started to realize this life he was living was not the way God wants every believer to live. And he started writing books. He wrote 3 books in the Bible. Some say he started with Proverbs. And then he went to Ecclesiastes. And then he went to what do you call the other one? The sons of what? Well, yeah, some call it the sons of Solomon, some call it the sons of sons, right? Okay. And that is a very romantic book for those of you who are in love or want to know my beloved. Read that book. Like I said here before, I read that when I was in class 2 or 3. Not for spiritual purpose. Maybe to catch women. How to write and all that. That's when they only copy my tea, they only sugar in my tea and all those kind of. That's where we got them from. They are here, go read them. Solomon, well, if you look at 700 wives, he must have had some stuff in his tongue. And he was using to talk to these women. He must have had some good words. So he didn't want to die with those words, so he put them into a book. So that some of us might be able to look at it, but not deviate from the way of God, or the ways of God. Now Solomon started realizing all these things with the Spirit of God. You cannot come to Christ on your own. The Spirit of God has to be in you to bring you to Him. And for no reason that we know about, these things started coming. And if you look at this book of Ecclesiastes, it's just 12 chapters, right? 12 chapters. And if you have read it, you probably got something from it. If you have not read it, I will encourage you to read it. Is it an easy book to read? No. But should we read it? Yes. We cannot say because it's not easy to understand, we're not going to read it. You'll be surprised how God will give you the understanding to fully understand it. And you look at the whole book of Ecclesiastes, it looked like he had come to full cycle. And it's more of a regret. How can a man write and say, meaningless, everything is meaningless? What does that tell you? Meaningless, everything is meaningless. You get that from Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 8. That's why he wrote that. Meaningless, everything is meaningless. Is everything really meaningless? Of course not. We as believers, we know that the things of God are not meaningless. The only things that are meaningless are the things that are not of God. Was the birth of Jesus Christ meaningless? Of course not. Was his crucifixion meaningless? Of course not. Was his ascension meaningless? Of course not. So when you read it, don't just take it for granted. Oh, everything is meaningless. As a Christian, you must understand what he's talking about is everything that is not of God is meaningless. And he went on to give us some of the things why he believed these things are meaningless. When you look at Hebrews, when you look at Ecclesiastes chapter 5, Ecclesiastes chapter 5 verse 10, 5 verse 10, what is he saying? Right? Riches are meaningless. The money you have, wanting so much money, is meaningless. Is that really true? Yes. Why is it meaningless? Because it's never enough. It's never enough. We never have enough. We always want to have more. There was a time, Rockefeller, some of you know this center, I think the name they call Rockefeller Center. The guy that they named after that center was the richest man in the world at that time. And he was asked, right? He was asked. Someone asked him, he was the richest man at that time, how much money is enough for you? He replied, I I just need a little bit more. You never have enough. Just like some of you building houses, some of us we built one, so now we built two, now we went to 3, we went to 4, so we can't even count them anymore. Why do we keep doing it? It's not enough. What is enough for me is not enough for Columbus. What's enough for Columbus might not be enough for you. That is why we don't all have the same urge. But the bottom line is, what are you doing with all these houses? When you die, what's going to happen to all these houses? Is it good not to have houses? Of course not, you must have. But having to the point that you can't even count them, or 2, 3, is meaningless, according to him. And you know he was the richest man in his time, King Solomon. He has so much money. And now he said, riches is useless. All these houses I have, they're useless. All this money I have, they're useless. All these houses I have, they're useless. Does it mean we should not have money? No, we must have. But we must not just continue to want to have more and more and more. Because that is what is going to continue to happen. We're going to have more and more and more. Rockefeller, the richest man of his time. I just want a little bit more. It never mattered how much he had. I just want a little bit more. And then another thing he said is meaningless is life itself. We come to this life, we do what we have to do, and then sometimes we don't like what is going on. Look at chapter 9, verse 11. Chapter 9, verse 11. Right? What did he say? Chapter 9, verse 11. I have seen something else under the sun. The race is not to the swift, or the battle to the strong, nor does food come from the wise, or wealth to the brilliant, or favor to the land. But time and chance happen to them all. No man knows what his hour will come. What exactly is he saying? What does it mean by that? Right? When you look at it, say, people don't get what they deserve. Is that not what this life shows? People don't get what they deserve. How can you justify the wicked richer than most holy people? How do we justify that? The wicked, they have more money, they have more comfort, they have more of these things than you who come to worship God all the time. What is the justification for that? And if there's no justification, it's meaningless. The way life is meant to be is meaningless. Some of us wake up very early, like Pale wakes up about 4:30 or so, goes to work, do all he had to do, get paid what he had to be paid, and you have a little child somewhere just pressing some buttons in the computer and is getting thousands. How do you justify that? Does that make any sense? That is what someone is saying. It doesn't make any sense. The drug pusher works so hard, uses all his strength and everything. How much does he make? Many of you in the air-conditioned office and everything, and you make way more than him. Does that make any sense? It's meaningless. That's what he's saying. It is meaningless. Everything seems determined by chance and time. Now, let's go to the conclusion of King Solomon. And he wrote this at the end of his book of Ecclesiastes. Again, we go into Ecclesiastes 12. We'll start from verse 13. Now all has been heard. All has been heard. What has been heard? What has been heard? That's what he's saying now. All has been heard. What has been heard? What is he talking about? You heard people say, oh, God is good, worship him. Others are saying, no, don't worship God. Others are going to say, God does not exist. Right? Some are saying, oh, this is bad, don't do it. Oh, no, do it. Some are saying it's good for a man to marry a man, a woman to marry a woman. And the Bible is telling us, no, it doesn't make sense. You cannot do that. You have heard everything. You've heard about heaven and hell. You've heard that, yes, God has created you. The same Solomon told you there's time for everything. There's time to be born and there's time to die. And when you die, you go to hell if you don't live right. And you go to heaven if you live right. And some will come and tell you, oh, my God will not send me to hell, whether I live right or not. You've heard everything. Now it's time for you to decide what is the right thing. What must you stick with? Right? Why do you have to hear all these things? So that you'll be able to come to your own conclusion. No one is going to come to that conclusion for you. You are the one that's going to come to that conclusion yourself. Should I serve God or not? That's a decision you have to make. Your father is not going to make that for you. And when that day comes, your father, oh, that's my son, then let him come to this side. Or you to do it for your father. It's never going to work that way. You are the one making the decision yourself. That is why you're hearing everything. Now you hear it, you have to decide. And you have to conclude. Conclude on what matter. What is the matter you're concluding on? King Solomon has seen everything. And he had come to one conclusion. That at the end of it all, what we Christians would want to go, want to be, is eternity. It's not about how much money you have in your bank account. That is not the matter. It's not about how many houses you have. That is not the matter. It's not about how many pairs of shoes that you have. That is not the matter. The matter is, where do you go? And you know he's going to call you. He's going to call you one day. He's going to call me one day. There is no way we can avoid that. And when we are called, where do we go? That is what King Solomon is talking about. And how do we know that? Let's look at verse 5 of his last chapter. I'm just going to start from, then man goes to his eternal home. Right? And mourners go about the streets. Remember him before the silver cord is severed, or the golden bowl is broken, before the pitcher is shattered at the spring, or the wheat broken at the well. The dust returns to the ground it came from. What does that mean? The dust returns to the ground it came from. You are dust. God made that very clear from the beginning. From dust you are, to dust you return. No one is going to escape that. And if that is the situation, if that is the matter, what must we do now? We have to live right. We have to live right. Live according to the will of God. And he concluded by fear God and keep his commandments. Fear here doesn't mean you should be afraid of God. That's not what he meant. Reverence God. We've heard it in prayers and everything today. Reverence God. Honor God. Obey God. Trust in God. Because He has the final say over everyone. Kings and all the times. He has the key to their life. Some of the kings might say, oh yeah, they this, they that. Yeah, they can do that now. I wish I've seen a king that haven't died, that is about 200 years old. They're not that powerful not to die. They're not that powerful to say no to God when He calls Him. The presidents and all that, the dictators you have all over the world, they might think they are powerful and all that for now. But a time will come when they should have realized, oh, we should have focused on eternity. As King Solomon later did. Let us not pray to be like King Solomon. Because not all of us will have the opportunity to come to that realization before we are called. Or like the thief that was crucified by the right hand side of God, Jesus. He was able to ask to be with Him in paradise. He had the opportunity and he did so. But not everyone is going to have that opportunity. So we must not want to go, let's conduct ourselves like King Solomon. We must want to conduct ourselves like children of God, knowing fully well that He is our God, He is our Maker, He is our Creator. No one is bigger than Him. No one is taller than Him. No one has a decision that passes His own. His decision is final. And what He said He will do, He will do. The things He has promised us, that their time has come to pass, they have happened. Except for those that their time has not come. He has said, from dust to dust, from dust we are, to dust we shall return. No one is 200 years old today. I don't know of anyone. I don't think any one of you here know anyone who is 200 years old. No one is going to be 200 years old because of His promise. We will die. And when we die, where do we go? That was what King Solomon was worried about. And he ran back to God. And you see, his father did the same thing. After all these atrocities, all the sins he committed, he came back to God. But we all might not have that opportunity to be able to come to God whenever we want to. So the time to come to Him is now. The time to come to Him is now. When you get home, say, God, I believe all of you have already given your life to Him. Other side would have had an altar call here now. Have you ever done that? Is there anyone who has not given his or her life to Christ? I didn't hear no. You've all done that. So I'm not going to have an altar call. But when you get home, rededicate your life to Him again. And He is ready to accept and bring you home. The ultimate goal of a Christian is eternity. Not the number of buildings you have, not the number of clothes you have, not the number of zeros you have in your bank account. Should we have all those things? Yes. There's nothing wrong with them, but don't be possessed with those things to the point that it becomes meaningless, as King Solomon has pointed to us. So we thank God for this message, and it's my prayer that He will touch each and every one here today so that we draw nearer to Him. And when the time that He will call us comes up, we will be ready. Are you ready? Are you ready when the Lord